what a topic, spa day. I walked in, I said, it has been so long since I've had a spa day. And I thought about it. I literally,
after you speak, you're more than welcome to.
I'll take it. I haven't had a pedicure in, I know at this point you're probably thinking about my feet. I haven't had a pedicure like in a year. So I was like, oh my gosh, it really is a pandemic. So self-care is a really big thing to be thinking about because I have been isolated with 3 small children for quite some time now. I always have to think about it. I have a 1-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So yeah, my hands are full. I'm pretty busy. Today I was gonna get here a lot earlier. A lot happened before I got here. And if you've ever heard of that saying, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Yes. But I will tell you this, I kept a really good perspective while things were happening, and I kept saying, I said, the only thing that matters is that I get there. And so that just reminds me of that in our lives. Sometimes a lot goes on behind the scenes. You know how you go, if you've ever watched a live play or show, you get the opportunity to see the show, but you never get to view what happens behind the scenes. So you can only imagine, like, they're like, hurry up and get out there. You got wardrobe malfunctions, you got a lot of things that aren't possibly going as planned, but what ends up happening is that you put on this really good show and everybody's like, round of applause and standing ovation, and they really don't know what it took to get there. So when I was thinking about self-esteem, when I was thinking about self-care, I was thinking about there are a lot of things that we could do to take care of ourselves. But and it would be very easy to give you a list of things you could do to take care of yourself, but it was placed on my heart to share with you today that there was a time in my life where I didn't know how to take care of myself. So, you know, we mentioned self-care, but I think about the places that I've been in after my second child. Well, with her, I had a placenta abruption. And she came out and she wasn't breathing. And so very hard, you're talking about hard decision making. My husband was in the operating room with me. And when she came out, she wasn't breathing. And they were like, hey, would you like to go with your daughter or do you want to stay with your wife? So yeah, some hard decisions have to be made. And so I tried to make him really comfortable in that moment. I just said, I tell you what, you know, I just need you to stay here with me. I could tell he was really afraid. And so just going through that put me in what I didn't know was postpartum depression. So I'm thinking, because you're in a good place and things are going well and things are going good, I mean, you're feeling like there's no reason where I shouldn't be taking care of myself. You know, things are really good. I should be grateful. You know, people have it worse than I do. It could be so much worse than what it is now. But it doesn't negate the fact that internally you could possibly really be going through something and not be able to take care of yourself. So I was in a state of self-pity. And when I say that, I didn't know that I needed help because I felt like everything I was feeling was justifiable. You know, people are doing stuff to me. You know, they're not helping me enough. You know, they're not showing up for me. I just had this baby. No one is, you know, helping me in the middle of the night like they should. You know, everything was intensified in a negative way. And so I was literally in a place where I didn't want to feel better. I felt good with staying there. You know, sometimes it just feels good to blame everyone else and not have to take responsibility or, you know, take the initiative to make changes in your life when you feel like that should be my husband's responsibility. You know, my mom should be repairing this relationship from, you know, my upbringing, or my dad should reach out more, or the kids should be better, you know, everything but what you could possibly do within yourself to take care of you. And I'm saying that to say, when we think about self-care, which self are you taking care of? You know, because there are many different versions of you. And I was in a place where, while I was in the self-pity, I wasn't worried about self-encouragement or self-esteem or, you know, being there or being selfless. I was worried about the self-doubt. I was worried about, you know, how it was, you know, self-pity was better than me feeling, you know, encouraged or being inspirational to anyone, because at that time I did not feel that. So we have to assess, what self are you taking care of? You know, and then over time, we have to be patient with that, because I didn't know who I was. I was bred to take care of everyone else. And then anytime I felt like I needed to take care of myself, it was almost like it was forbidden. It was like, oh, you're selfish. You just want to go off and do your own thing. Or how could you leave us out? Or didn't you think about your mom? Or, what about us? And so every time I felt like I was taking the initiative to do something for me, which would be considered self-care, I was getting shamelessly blamed for doing so. And so I had to get to a place where I needed to know it was okay to take care of me. But when I got to the place where I was willing and acceptable to take care of me, I didn't know who I was. So it was like really weird. I know what the kids like. I know what my husband likes to eat. I know what, my mom likes to do. I know what type of gift my grandmother possibly likes. But when I started spending time with me, it was like having an out-of-town guest. You know how they're coming in town? It's like, hey, what do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know. Well, where would you like to go? I'm not quite sure. So what happened was I went into this place where I was doing a lot of eating, because what do? You offer people food. Well, you hungry? You want, and then, Southern hospitality. What do you want to eat? What do you want to drink? So I was doing more of the surface care, like thinking, trying to get to know myself. I didn't have a favorite color. I was like, well, what's your favorite color? And then someone asked, what's your favorite number? And I was like, I don't have a favorite number. And so it was just so odd to see that I had been alongside this person for so many years, and I didn't really know who she was. I had spent so much time investing in what other people needed from me and how I could contribute into their lives, to where I wasn't even comfortable in my own skin. So I think about dresses. Okay, so I'm 41 years young, and I did not start, thank you, oh my God. And this is a part of that. So I did not feel dress worthy until I was 37 years old. I was like, they just don't look, I wasn't raised like the girly girl, my mom didn't buy the little purses and all. I didn't have that connection, that bond, and I'm not saying that it's totally connected to that, but I just didn't have a desire. And then not only that, over a period of time, I feel like this doesn't look good on me. And then people would compliment me, like you said, looks good, and then it's just kind of like, it's thank you, but within, I didn't feel like that. It was just like, what do you see that I don't? It's like, I don't see that. And then I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm more disappointed about my ears being like a widget, or, these other deficiencies that I have that you feel like others cannot see, but when I go to take my shower or whatever, I'm well aware of. So there were these deficiencies that were there that kept me from being in a place of gratitude with who I was. And so along this journey, because this is not an overnight process, they said that trees are not built overnight, they built over time. So over the process of getting to know me, I had to be patient with myself. I was very judgmental. Very judgmental about what I didn't know, what I was confused about, what no one had taught me. In a lot of areas, I felt insufficient in my life. And so as time went on, I literally had to have the conversations. They say it's okay to talk to yourself, but not answer yourself. As a therapist, I want to be the first to say you should be doing both. We should be having conversations and dialogue within ourselves. And so for that, it's something about when you hear it out loud, it sounds a lot different than it does in your head. And that's whether you're trying to talk yourself into something or out of something. So once you say, you know what, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe I should rethink that. But I'm going into effect that it's really about perspective. They say if you change your perspective, then you change your perspective. And that means how you look at things. So before I walk away, if nothing else, I want to encourage you that we need to be in a place where you are constantly they say, take every thought under captivity. That means that when you are thinking of these indeficiencies or, what's going on in your life that could be better, or what you could do to better yourself or change yourself, or to make you more desirable to either you or to someone else, start to think about being okay with who you are, but seeing things in a different light, being positive about it, whatever it is that you're unhappy with, finding a place of, they say, attitude of gratitude, something to be grateful for. And it really is always something to be grateful for. But when we say it out loud, it does something. They say what you're seeking is seeking you. And what's so amazing, I felt like, how can I remember these things? Because I would go on this journey, I was like, yes, I would, do all this self-development and read these things. But when it was time to put it into action, none of that came into play. I didn't know where to find it. It's like, where's that armor I had on 3 days ago? And I literally had to, when I say you set an alarm, let's just say you're not used to getting up at 5 a.m., then most likely you would have to set an alarm as a reminder. And in your life, while you're on this journey of self-care and being able to identify which self you're taking care of, set some type of alarm. Whether it's vision boards. Has anyone in here ever done a vision board? That is where, yes, you can go through a magazine, you can go, just cutting out the things and pasting them on a board that you would like to see manifest within yourself. Whether it be a picture of drinking more water or, eating healthy or whatever it is you want to contribute to your life. It's like setting an alarm, because when you wake up, let it be somewhere visible where it's one of the first things you see in the morning. One of the watches that I wear consistently, it goes off, and I think every 45 minutes, but the message says, breathe. So imagine having to remind yourself, it's like, oh wow, I'm just going, my thoughts are going, I'm anxious about a lot of things, and it's just like, remember to breathe. Journaling is excellent self-care. Those thoughts being placed on paper, and not to mention, it serves as evidence over time. If I asked you what you wore maybe 3 Tuesdays ago, unless you have a structured uniform that you wear every day, it's a lot likely that you wouldn't remember what you had on. And then when you go to court and then you're trying to plead, your case, and they say, well, do you have any evidence? Where's your evidence? That journal a lot of times serves as evidence, because sometimes you'll try to talk yourself out of the effectiveness, that I'm doing well. I just don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I feel like anything is changing. If we're going off of our memory, a lot of times it only serves us in a magnitude to where it's the things that are not so desirable. But if you go back and look at that journal, it serves as the evidence that though things may not be happening in large quantities, something's happening. There's a process going on. I always say, just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean that it's not. And just because it's not happening the way you envision doesn't mean it's not the perfect plan for your life. So writing those things down, journaling it, going back and being able to assess where you've been versus where you are, and the things that worked and the things that didn't work along your self-care journey. So I just encourage you to look at it from a positive perspective. Be patient with yourself. They say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I know, I heard that. I was like, that is good. And it's the patience. And if I know one thing you're gonna do in a waiting room, that's wait. And so throughout your journey, we don't necessarily want to rush that process, but it will be a journey. And they say it's not given to the quick and to the swift, but to the one who will endure. So along your journey, just be patient with you. And then those things that come along to redefine you or restructure you or rebuild you or make you stronger, that will serve as as the initiative to keep going. There will be improvement. And that's what happened. I looked up and there was a lot of improvement in my life. And they said, a lot of times, on this self-care journey, it's like, where do I start? They always say, just get started. And you're like, where is the starting line? No one tells you where to start. It's just like, just get started. And then it came to me, I was like, one of the things that worked best in my life was just taking control of the controllables. The things that we cannot control, like so many of the things that happened to me this morning. I cannot control that, but the things that I can control are the things that I need to put forth the effort in order to control. They says that I begin to control it so that it no longer controls me. So those things that you can control, do that. And then other things will begin to come in place. It will come together. You got to remember, it's not you alone. You know, God sends a spirit that's going to help you along the way to where he says, I will never leave you or forsake you. It's not just you on this journey. And that's the thing. They, in my mind, and I always say they because it's the infamous person, have me thinking that it's going to take, you know, I'm alone. You're alone in this. Self-care just sounds isolated. It's like, it's just me. I need us to be reminded that it's not just you. You know, that the Spirit is with you, and that whatever it is that you're facing or that you're going through, whatever obstacles, whatever tests, whatever trial, that you are not alone. And I think the moment I got out of that place where feeling like, you know, from my upbringing up into a certain point in my life, that it was just me, it was very comforting to come into a place where I was literally able to accept the fact that I was not alone. It's not just me that's doing this. You know, God is here. He is with me. He's not a million miles away. He's right here with me. So as my perspective changed and my habits changed, those daily things that we can possibly do. And like I said, it's a process. If you think about working out and it's the beginning of the year, how about that gym membership? And I didn't go yet, but I'm going. Even if you went in day one, and I mean, you worked out as hard as you could, you drank as much water as you could, and you stayed there half the day, you still wouldn't walk out with abs that I know of. You're like, I went so hard today. There are no abs here. So it is just a reoccurring situation where you have to keep showing up for yourself. So keep showing throughout your self-care journey as we identify which self we're taking care of. And we have some decisions to make, because they say no decision is a decision. So the moment that we're not taking this serious, and some of this is kind of mushy, and some of this is just real stereotypical, and it just seems really plain. But when I say that, it's like sometimes the most simple thing to do is the most hardest thing to do. And so it's like, yeah, that sounds really easy. Are you sure? And I always thought about, what if the cure to cancer was just like eating orange peels? And when I say that, it could be something really simple, and just say, if I present it to you, be like, no, that can't be it. It's just way too simple. It has to be more to it than that. And so I got in a place where I was like, no, it's gotta be more. But then when I started to take the journey and to take the small steps, and things started to manifest and change in my life over time, I was like, you know what? It really was that simple. But along with that, it didn't mean that it was easy, but it was a simple strategy that was challenging to do, but I had to remember that I was not alone. So throughout your journey, just know that go the distance. You know, it's going to happen in his timing. And when I say that, a place of realization, a place of self-esteem, a place where you feel like you really can take those moments to yourself without feeling guilty, you know, take the guilt being gone. Because with me having 3 kids, it's like, you know what? I feel guilty. You know, now it's abandoned. Now it's turned into abandonment. You know, I'm gone too long, and now CPS, you know, it's just a bad thing. But that is how I felt. I know my mind, it goes 100 miles an hour. But it's a real thing for me, and that's just where I am. I only know how to express it to you the way that I've experienced it. And like, even with my children, I thought that when you first had them, you know, you're just like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm so in love, I have a baby. And I was very happy, and I am happy. Some of you are looking at me like, she has to go out. So yes, but it was over time, you know, it was over time. Like, you know, my son, he turned 6 months, 8 months. It's like, you know what, you really are awesome, you know. And so that was, you know, how I experienced my journey. It was like being on a first date, you know, the guy, you're like, hey, I don't really know you like that, you know, I have no feelings, nothing's attached, but over time, you know, you're like, I can see this working out. So it's just like with you, be patient with you, and your approach to yourself. It's okay to be humorous. It's okay to laugh. It's okay. Like I said, when I was alone, I wasn't quite sure of how I felt about me. But as I got to know me and feel better about who I was, and just really go into it with an open mind, I felt like, you know what, you're all right with me. So throughout your journey, I just want you to be well aware that, you know, hey, things may not be looking as if you want them to look in the onset, but tomorrow is going to be better. And with every step that you make, I think that we're that much closer to being comfortable with who we are and whose we are. So I just I'm thankful for you all allowing me to be here. I don't get a chance to hear it if you don't give me a platform to speak it. So I'm very grateful. And with you all, I want to congratulate you on the journey, that whether you've started it or you're about to, or like my workout program, not yet, but it's well on the way. So I want to congratulate you on advance to taking better care of you and deciding that it's going to be your best self.